Hamburg, November 1995. With the missing persons complaint, German authorities are searching for the president of Scientology in Germany. In May 1995, 51-year-old Wiebke H. was suddenly relieved of her post. The investigative authorities in Germany believe she was placed in a Scientology prison camp in California. The Scientology organization asserts that the missing woman is dedicating herself to spiritual advancement.
Ich habe einen Scientologen angerufen.
I called up the Scientologists and said, "Where is my sister? I read here in the newspaper that she is missing." I knew enough people there, and so I called them up. At first, they gave me a little bit of the runaround. Then I told them, "Out with it, give me the number, otherwise I'll raise a scene here." That is what I did, and as a matter of fact, Wiebke called back 2 days later. And after she heard that there was a missing persons complaint out on her, she went to the consulate in Los Angeles, and that killed the matter. The police never came back here because she's not missing. According to the way we gauge things, she's under certain conditions at certain places, since I would probably not go there.
Orten, wo ich sagen würde, da würde ich wahrscheinlich nicht hingehen. Also wenn Wiebke was nicht will.
So when Wiebke doesn't want to do something, then nobody in the world can get her to do it. So she would have left this camp too, and she would also have been in the position here in Hamburg as well as in LA to find a way out. For example, if she didn't have anything to wear, and that if the things she needed for survival were not there, then she wouldn't be going along with them. She would have become very, very furious if something happened which she didn't want. That's the way she's been her whole life. That's also why she was so successful with the Scientologists. Because she wants or wanted exactly that.
So ist sie ihr ganzes Leben lang gewesen, deswegen war sie bei den Scientologen auch so erfolgreich, weil sie das genau will oder wollte.
For 10 years, Wiebke H. was the most successful Scientology manager worldwide. Scientology sees itself as the truest religion on earth. Its presumably positive goal is to use its ideology to create a better world. Income in the millions flowed year after year from her organization in Hamburg to the Scientology headquarters in California. When her sales took a turn for the worse, she was removed as president.
Sie hatte, das war ganz witzig, einen Sekretär.
That was quite funny, a male secretary. She was certainly not a highbrow, but she said, "Since I'm a woman, I want a male secretary." I still think that's funny. He was a nice guy. In principle, Wiebke ran the whole organization. That means she was the one who asked, what's happening here, what's happening with the courses, how are acquisitions made, how is the inner organization. Later, Scientology said that she had lied. I don't believe that. I simply do not believe that.
Das glaube ich nicht. Das glaube ich schlichtweg nicht.
Change of location. December 5th, 1998. Clearwater, Florida, the Mecca of Scientology. In past years, 9 Scientologists have died here under mysterious circumstances, among them 36-year-old Lisa McPherson. Charges have been brought against Scientology in her gruesome death. On the 3rd anniversary of her death, relatives of the victim and former Scientologists gathered. We have scheduled a meeting with the former members. Among them, they have years of experience in the Scientology prison camps, such as where Wiebke H. is said to have spent some time. One of them is Jerry Armstrong. He was coordinator in the Scientology Intelligence Service and a confidant of Hubbard, the organization's founder. But even he fell from grace. He spent 2.5 years in the camps.
I was the founding father of the Clearwater RPF.
The first prisoner?
I was the first prisoner.
The first prisoner?
And people really are prisoners. Scientology will say that people go voluntary. Absolutely not. To me, it was completely, I was so devastated I couldn't eat for the first 36 hours. It was as if my whole life had been stripped from me, because I knew, having been on the ship with Hubbard, I knew what the RPF meant.
He received this in writing, as shown by this document. Hubbard had charged him with 3 offenses: disobeying an order, neglect of duty, and poor work performance. Scientology has its own penal system with prosecutors, judges, and the accompanying prison camps. Of course, Scientology does not call them prison camps. They call it the Rehabilitation Project Force, RPF for short. These camps in the USA and Europe are run exclusively for people who don't fit into the elitist Sea Org. Hubbard determined the personal restrictions and penalties for them by 1974. The prison laborers are re-educated and made tractable by hard labor, compulsory hypnosis and brainwashing. All according to the slogan, "The RPF is what we make it. The RPF is where we make it." Scientology sells the RPF to its thousands of Sea Org members as their last chance to stay in the elite unit. By order, the camp inmates have no liberties, they are isolated and may not speak to anybody. Jesse Prince, formerly the second-ranking man in the Scientology management team. Even he was put away in the notorious Happy Valley prison camp for refusal to obey orders. That is also where Whip KH is presumed to be.
It was horrible. In Happy Valley, where I left, when I first went there, I literally slept on a wooden floor with rattlesnakes, scorpions, black widows, you name it, running rampant in a shack.
That is Stacy Brooks. She was a member of management of the Scientology Secret Service, and "I was a puppet for over 15 years, she said.
You know, you really honestly believe when you're a Scientologist that it is the only route to happiness. And that if you leave it, you have no hope of ever being happy. I mean, you honestly believe that when you're in there. And I don't know how they're able to accomplish that belief. All I can do is describe it. You know, Vaughn agreed to go back to the RPF because he truly believed that it was very important for him to continue to be a Scientologist. This was the only way that they would allow him to continue to be a Scientologist. And so, you know, people submit to the most degrading, abusive, terrifying experiences that you can imagine for the sake of this elusive and delusional idea.
The prison camps are there, but you don't see them. A splendidly renovated hotel in Clearwater, here is Fort Harrison, with every sort of comfort for its guests. In Los Angeles, a former hospital done over completely in blue. Near there or under there in garages or in basements are the reformatories for the misfits. Outside of the big cities, on the edge of the desert, 2 hours drive from Los Angeles is Happy Valley, the prison camp for the elite.
The reason is to further his control and domination of Scientologists and Sea Org members. Scientology exerts incredible control over its people, right from the beginning. As soon as you enter the door of Scientology, they seek to control more and more and more of your life. And the RPF is like the ultimate control because you are completely dominated by the organization and by the RPF rules. They're incredibly restrictive. You had no newspapers, no magazines, no radio, really no contact. You were not allowed to speak to anyone else unless spoken to. You ate after the rest of the crew, and you ate whatever was left after the rest of the crew was fed. You had to run everywhere, including running on this ship.
Clearwater, Florida, in August 1998. We succeeded for the first time in filming a group of Scientology's RPF prison camp laborers. They were renovating the Scientology-operated Fort Harrison Hotel. Even old women are exploited for this work, where it is 110 degrees in the shade. Their daily wage, $1.20. Change of location at the center in Copenhagen, another hotel. This time it's the Scientology Nordland Hotel, again with an integrated prison camp. Who would be surprised that they don't want us here? We have made an appointment with the Danish woman Susanne Schernekau. Almost 2 years of her life was spent here behind this facade. The organization's buildings are all over Copenhagen. All are being renovated in order to bring Scientology's customers in at a fast pace. There is much work that needs to be done. As was the case with BPH, Susanne was also accused of financial manipulation. My offense, according to Scientology, was financial fraud, and that I had behaved very badly. For example, in Munich, I had gone with a normal person to eat. Because I was married, that was not okay. By November 13, 1989, she had gone too far. She was assigned to the RPF in Copenhagen, as this document shows. Ethics, morals in Scientology. An offense is severely punished. Scientology's ethics are synonymous with total obedience, suppression, and forced re-education. That is where people end up who make mistakes. Forced laborers are produced according to need, sometimes more, sometimes less. For instance, in Copenhagen there was a building which was a total wreck, and we cleaned it from top to bottom, cleaned all the pigeons off the window ledges, rats and mice and so forth. We began to paint, carpet, renovate, everything.
Malen, tapezieren, renovieren, alles.
We were always the last to eat. Only breakfast was really okay. Other than that, the food was very bad. The beds were very bad. We slept 12 people to a room. The solidarity of the group is emphasized, especially in the elite C organization, Sea Org for short. Created by Hobbit, it is the heartbeat of Scientology, his private army. They want world domination, and that needs an army, and into this one come only the best. Immortality, power, consensus, and invincibility. Rattling sabers, and then the fall. Unexpected and final. You live with the conviction that you already have everything under control, and when that does not happen, you realize that you do not have everything under control. And somehow the whole idea that you were part of an elite group plunges headlong into the ground. You begin the RPF with a black armband. Then, if your ethics go well, you get a white armband. The difference is, with a black armband and as a married person in the Sea Org, you may not see your husband. You may not speak to him if he does not speak with you. With the white armband, you may spend 3 hours per week together with your second dynamic. That means your family, your husband, and possibly children. You may still not speak with your husband unless he speaks to you. Then you get more. That means that you can earn a gold armband.
Dann kannst du noch mehr werden. Das heißt,
with a gold armband, you may spend 1 night a week with your family.
Und mit einem goldenen Armband darfst du eine Nacht pro Woche bei deiner Familie übernachten.
You can picture the structure of the RPF as Susanne drew it up in the camp and learned by heart. Chief of the group, but a co-prisoner at the same time, is the bosun. Under him is the STO, responsible for the assignment of work, and the MAA, who is responsible for keeping the rules of the camp. Under that is the tech, responsible for the material and the equipment. Qual supervises the performance of the work. The rank and file form the individual sections A, B, and C. Work groups have up to 10 people. These are assigned to the actual renovation work, as is the case here in Clearwater. The control of each other is omnipresent and perfect. None can escape it.
Man beobachtet alle andere und weiß, dass alle andere auch dich und alle anderen
You keep all the others
beobachten.
under
Das ist
observation
normal.
and know that all the others are watching you and
zur
each
Seite
other.
treten.
That is normal. Anybody can get out of line. Those are the people who least want to know themselves. That means that other people bring it to your attention with a knowledge report that you have made a mistake. That means you have to look up that mistake, face on, and handle it somehow, in some way. And then show the group that you have made up for it.
Und dann zeigen, die Gruppe zeigen, dass du wieder gut drauf bist. Ne?
Those are the knowledge reports with which one shows his true loyalty. Everybody watches everybody else, everybody betrays everybody else and puts this down on paper. Here Susanne turns in another work group to their superiors. The smallest necessity in the RPF camp must be asked for in writing. Susanne requested, I have only one work suit and no cap. Without a complete uniform, I am breaking the regulations, and I have to wash my clothes urgently. Request denied. Instructions? Wash your work cloth at night and hang them in the boiler room so that they will be dry in the morning. The European headquarters of Scientology in Copenhagen. Thousands of adherents stream year after year into this building in order to get closer to immortality by taking courses. We wanted to check out Susanne's statements. Together with her, we met there with the press spokeswoman of Scientology in Europe. She said she was ready to give information about the rehabilitation camp system. For her, it was a unique chance to ethically get back into shape.
Well, there is a program that is allowed for a person who made some serious blunder in the church. It's a person that is offered the possibility, what it is, contrary to what she's saying, I'm sure, is when a person makes a serious mistakes, she's given, normally in any other area, she would be kicked out or fired from a group for the mistake they made. We offer the possibility to the person to do the Rehabilitation Project Force, where the person learns how to learns what he did exactly that was wrong. He is given some technology where he can avoid making the same mistake again, and he works 5 hours a day. He studies 5 hours a day, and then he works in doing different projects. No, I don't hate these people. I don't hate these people.
What are your feelings?
My feeling doesn't matter on this thing. As I said earlier, they yap, and that's all. It's like just annoying, and it's just annoying because they do not say the truth of what Scientology is. They're upset about whatever. Okay, when you're upset, you might say things that are a bit overboard, but it does not matter really to us because we will be continuing to be there, and no matter what they say and what they yap, there are thousands of people coming in and wanting to know what Scientology is, and life goes on, it carries on.
Their lives go on. Not only tomorrow and the next day, but for billions of years. The Sea Org members sign a work contract accordingly. Therefore, I contract myself to the Sea Organization for the next billion years. And that's for $130 a month, as former members tell us. An elite organization for eternity. The only question is, whose?
I'm a Sea Org member, and I have my uniform.
You're proud to be a Sea Org member?
Definitely.
And why?
Because the purpose of it, what I do, what I accomplish, the good I do the whole week is very worthwhile, is very rewarding.
They are surely unbeatable when it comes to one thing in particular. Delusions of grandeur and fondness for theatrical drama and fine-tuned propaganda. In the center of the power rush is the current leader, David Miscavige. Since 1986, he has been the successor of L. Ron Hubbard.
There will be no more nothing, because on October the 1st, 1993, at 8:37 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the IRS issued letters recognizing Scientology, and every one of its organizations as fully tax-exempt. The war is over!
He's actually quite a short person himself, and he's very paranoid because, I believe, of what he does, that he feels that someone's going to hurt him, so he has to hurt them first.
Welcome to church.
100 miles east of Los Angeles, 2 hours drive away. Below us is Gilman Hot Springs, the secret world headquarters of Scientology. This is where David Miscavige pulls the strings of his power. The site resembles a vacation resort, grand houses, the golf course right next to them, everything including the California sun. There is room for over 1,000 people here, his private army. Only a few Scientologists know of this spot and its meaning. One of them, Jesse Prince, the former representative of David Miscavige, tells us what the picturesque setting conceals.
That means the location there is the real world headquarters of Scientology.
Yes.
And David Miscavige is living there also?
Yes, yes.
How would you describe his living condition?
Very elaborate, very lavish, that I've seen, you know, and you see that some of the buildings that they have are actually quite nice. They look quite nice. Some of the properties are quite nice. Very luxurious, as a matter of fact, is a good word. Reason being is they have zero cost for labor. It's simply material costs, because they have their slave camp, they have their slave laborers that work night and day, and then even when the slave laborers can't keep up with it, there's a day, Saturday, where every person at Gilman Hot Springs, no matter what position you're in, goes and does the labor just like the slaves does all day doing renovation. So in that wise, you know, if you have no labor costs and just materials, you can accomplish quite a bit.
Pure luxury made possible by the RPF. Zero labor costs and $300,000 in donations for a private music studio, wardroom and fitness center, all for the comfort of David Miscavige.
You know, if he decides that something needs to look a certain way, well, then that's how it looks. If he decides that things need to be done in a certain way, then that's how they are done. It is by his will, because he's the boss.
The magnificent villa behind the wrought iron fans, a lifestyle which includes a swimming pool, guest house, tennis courts and private movie theater. Luxury in a high-security area.
The security there is quite phenomenal. They have the fences where they have ground sensors, where even if you walk near the fence, they know it. Lights start coming on in the complex. They have night vision cameras, night vision scopes. And they had a location, you notice there's a mountain behind there, a little hill. They had an area up there called Eagle, where someone is constantly watching over the property all the time, a security guard, and they rotated his video and everything. I know these things because I helped set up the security there. Ooh, you're talking about reaping what you sow.
There's no way out.
No. And then they have these nice-looking fences where you can't hardly see, but if you touch it, it cuts your hand. You bleed like crazy. It's like razor sharp on the top, so that if you try to come over. The international management of Scientology, that is the area, CSI, Church of Scientology International, which operates and micromanages all of its other corporations, such as Flag Service Organization here in Clearwater, where we are, is micromanaged from the CSI Corporation at Gilman Hot Springs. The facility that they have in Los Angeles is micromanaged by the facility in Gilman. The facility that they have in Europe is micromanaged by the facility that they have in Gilman Hot Springs. In other words, any area that produces a sufficient amount of income is micromanaged from the Gilman Hot Springs location.
Good night.
I was put in RPF. It was in Happy Valley, just down the road from Gilman Hot Springs, their Golden Arrow location on the Indian reservation. Yeah, you pass through the suburban Indian reservation.
Who assigned you to the RPF?
David Miscavige.
David Miscavige. At Gold?
Yes.
For what reason? You put you to the prison?
Because I wouldn't go along with his plan to get rid of Pat Nanny Broker, and I refused to do it. I refused to be a part of it. I refused to have anything to do with it. So he said, okay, I'm gonna have to get you too. They woke me up at 5 o'clock in the morning. You know, they love this element of surprise. And by the time I had come to the room, they had already gotten Vicky Azaran, who was supposed to be, quote unquote, the #1 person in all of Scientology. And she was sitting in the corner crying and shaking miserably because they, you know, all of these men had screamed at her, pushed her around, and she was very afraid. And then I came in the room and he says, well, it's over now. You had a chance, you made the wrong choice, and you're going to the RPF. And he told me, you call me sir. I'll never forget it. And I looked at him, I was sitting across the desk. He said, say it, say it, say it. And I got up and I said, fuck you. And I walked out of the room, at which point people tried to grab me, but I had karate training and I knocked them together and they backed off, at which point I ran to my room and got a rifle, a semi-automatic rifle that I had gotten from L. Ron Hubbard, because everyone had rifles, semi-automatic, fully automatic rifles, and a .45, and I came back and I said, what do you want to do now? Now David totally changed his character. He says, Jesse, you know, we've been through so much. You know, please, let's not do this. Come on, put the guns away. Put the guns away. He didn't take my guns. I put them back, and then I came out and we talked, and he said to me at that point, he says, look, I really need you to do this. You know, please just take this fall, because, you know, you're in a high position in the church. All of the staff see this going on. I need you to do this just so Scientology itself doesn't fall apart. And if you do this, then I will come and take you and put you back in a position. And, you know, I didn't really care about that. And at the time, I didn't think that it would be a good idea for all of Scientology to fall apart, because I'm still not straight in my head yet. So I conceded.
Happy Valley, Rehabilitation Center for Recuperation of Inner Peace, lies hidden among the mountains, only 20 minutes away from the center of power. Officially, the area is called Castile Canyon School. Over 100 people live here, including Wiebke H., who is said to have been in the camp since 1995.
Just like in a prison, someone come in, time to get up, security guard, 10 minutes, wash, dress, and then you're outside standing in the, you know, freezing early morning in California, shaking. They do a roll call, they count you just like they do in jail. They count how many people are there, make sure no one is missing. And then you're told what you're gonna do for that day. You eat a meal for 20 minutes, and then you're working.
In the near vicinity of the company's private golf course and the football field in Gilman Hot Springs is another attraction in the Scientology program, a circular spot. In the middle is a palm tree. That's not meant for harmless games. That spot is for running. Today clockwise and tomorrow counterclockwise around. The newest addition is said to be a water sprinkling system for overheated souls.
He put a big maypole in the Gilman Hot Spring location, and people had to run around it all day. And it was a punishment for people who he thought had suddenly become PDH. And you do it from the moment you wake up until you go to sleep. You just run around the pole day and night for weeks on end.
12 hours a day.
Around that pole?
Yeah. Until you realized that you had been faulty in your thinking and were ready to think straight again and be a proper Scientologist.
Is that how it worked for Wiebke H.? Did she also spend days on this spot? Wiebke H., the successful manager, What became of her? Letters to her brother. She wrote the last one June 1998. Her brother showed them to us as a sign that she was still alive. She said things were going splendidly with her and she was having a lot of fun. The lines she wrote give the impression that everything is okay. Supposedly nothing is happening with his older sister, which he needs to be concerned about. Where is she exactly, and is she doing well?
Einerseits,
on the one side, I know that she has done this voluntarily and on her own. On the other side, of course, it is clear to me that her thought is being manipulated. What is the extent of freedom? Where is the part where I can say with certainty that she wants things that way? I have to leave that up to her if I accept her as an equal. On the other hand, one asks, if she is manipulated, what happened when she spent 3 years in this rehabilitation center? Are the trouble and the effort which she has taken upon herself worthwhile? What happens when a monk goes into a cloister and talks with nobody for 3 months? If one goes to a hermitage, what happens then? Must we permit that? Is it only unpleasant because she's my sister and it happened to us in the middle of Hamburg?
Was ist das? Müssen wir das zulassen? Ist es nur unangenehm, weil es meine Schwester ist und uns das hier mitten in Hamburg passiert?
It's difficult for me.
Schwierig für mich.
Back to Clearwater, to the picket being held by the former Scientologists. This is Frank Holloway, who was an agent of the Secret Service of Scientology, OSA for short.
That was me addressing a member of Scientology's Office of Special Affairs, probably, trying to get a picture of me as a former member of the Office.
By 1996, the Munich state attorney had already found out that Scientology used undercover intelligence methods as defense against inner and external enemies, and that it would not stop at criminal actions.
The Office of Special Affairs is set up in Scientology with two purposes in mind. One is the Office of Special Affairs to handle PR, and the other is investigation. One works hand in hand with the other. Where there are areas that the church believes are detrimental to society, for example, in the areas of psychiatry, in the areas of the IRS, abuse maybe, Scientology sets up their investigative machine to work and then uses the information that they garner from that with their PR machine that they have, which is what they go out and they try and publicize this information. Now, it's not for the purpose of the general good of the populace. It's very self-serving.
This document clearly shows what assignments are waiting for OSA agents: infiltration, bribery, buying information, robbery, blackmail.
The investigations person, you hardly ever see them. They're the ones in the shadows finding out the dirt on everyone and everything. Critics, and bringing that to the PR so the PR can use it to make Scientology look good and to make them look, the other person look bad. Right. So that's how it works. They work with each other.
OSA is also involved in monitoring telephones. We have a list of telephone numbers called from a public telephone booth in Miami. The assignment was to observe these booths in order to investigate the callers.
They had so many projects going on at the time that my main purpose for being there was to be in the CAN unit, but they would pull me out of that room and put me on other related projects to, move them along a little bit. I remember sitting in a room and having to go through a printout of someone's phone bill and find out who all the phone numbers belong to. I don't know how I got a copy of someone's private phone bill.
Perhaps by burglary? A training document for Scientology agents, which was confiscated by the FBI, shows that the organization will not stop at burglary. Along with exact descriptions how to break through door locks and even safes is covered. Pull your prepared metal strip from the lower end of the door to the strike plate of the lock and the door pops open. If you have problems inserting it, use your foot to hold the door open a crack.
Your top guy is Mike Rinder. He's the executive director of the Office of Special Affairs. He knows everything that's going on, and above him is David Miscavige. Everything goes from him to him, directly.
Hollywood Boulevard, Los Angeles. Workplace of Mike Rinder and gathering point for OSA. This is where the information is evaluated and prepared for further action. That not only includes Germany, Scientology is declared arch-enemy, but also the Federal German Ministry for Family, Youth and Health. The method of operation against the enemy and the goal of the OSA agents is that one learns all his plans for the future and uses the material gathered either to bring him to court or to discredit him so that no one longer believes his statements.
OSA is his, that's his number one thing right now. That's what he has to have in place. If not, Scientology would have been gone long ago.
So OSA keeps Scientology alive?
Absolutely.
You are blocking us, you are harassing us. You are not allowed to block us, you know?
They have refused to
You're
leave.
blocking us.
Nobody is blocking you.
You're blocking us.
Fine! I'm placing you under citizen's arrest right now.
OSA in action. We wanted to go to Happy Valley to see Wipke H. However, our drive was stopped short by a roadblock. We were held up for over 2 hours on the open road, scolded, yelled at, threatened. There was no way out. What or whom were they concealing there? Many questions remain unanswered.
You're asked to do things that are illegal. You're asked to do criminal things, in your position. And then pretty soon, you're doing it, everyone else is doing it. It's like part of the job. If you want to be in this position, then you have to start doing these types of criminal activities. And since everyone does it, now everyone is culpable. So everybody keeps quiet about it. No one talks about it. As I said earlier, the people, the hierarchy of Scientology does not practice Scientology as it is written in some of those bulletins.
The entire organization at the top of Scientology is completely corrupt. They find it laughable that people lower down in Scientology believe all this stuff.
I never wanted to be like the others. I always wanted to be different. Then I met people here who wanted to be the best of the world. They wanted to help other people.
For what I have seen for myself, I know that it's the right place for me to be. And I know that we are dealing with the truth.
They are not only in possession of the truth, they have also their own mobile security troops. The Scientology sheriffs dress like police and follow you around step by step.
Sir, this is private property. Could I ask you to leave?
It doesn't say private property.
As Hubbard said, true is what is true for you. He also thought that they were the only people on Earth who have the right to punish. According to whose rules? According to Hubbard's rules, which are still rigidly kept today, 14 years after his death. Even children cannot escape these regulations. They are made tractable with psychological methods in their education into Sea Org members. Over and over again, they are subjected to the same security questions. Has someone ordered you not to tell us something? Do you have a secret? Have you ever taken something which does not belong to you? Have you ever hurt yourself to cause others anxiety? Have you ever done something which you have had to be ashamed of? Have you ever done anything criminal? Have you ever knocked down a smaller child? Have you ever been ashamed of your parents? Have you ever betrayed a secret which was entrusted to you? Have you ever been a coward? Have you spied on your friends? Correct answers mean happy faces. But the fun stops for these children with failure and disobedience. By 1976, on instructions from Hubbard, the first Children's RPF was established in Los Angeles. No time off for play, but a children's prison camp with absolute obedience as its goal. One of the reasons for the camp for children was stated in this document. Make it clear to the children that any form of vandalism, theft and any other crime committed by a child will be punished by the RPF under aggravated conditions.
I knew that rather than Scientology being the answer and healing people and giving them greater abilities and making them better humans, it was completely abusive and had no other purpose than to dominate and control people and make buckets of money.
When you look exactly at what is going on, you see a reactionary authoritarian mechanism which restricts certain degrees of liberties. When it is understood that something is permissible, then it may be done. However, I don't accept that they do that for everybody else. And to make this dependent upon a Scientology citizenship, this is written explicitly in their Scientology code. Whether one is a Scientologist and this gives them the right to re-educate people in their own rehabilitation camps and so on. We have had that before and that does not belong here. The question I've asked many times over, because of course I've got calls from a lot of people telling me my sister is doing quite poorly now and she has to work hard there. I don't doubt that at all. When she's doing that voluntarily, then that is her business. If I now go in there and get involved, am I helping her? Am I hurting her? Or am I only helping myself? Four months later, February 1999, Jochen Körner flew to Los Angeles to see his sister Wiebke again after almost 4 years. They met at a small restaurant in Hollywood. Later they went for a walk along the beach. That evening she rode with her Scientology bus back to the world headquarters in Gilman Hot Springs. Now she's a producer there for Scientology recruitment films. She said she did not want to talk over her time in the prison camp with her brother. She does not want to go back to Germany anymore. Madrid, February 5th, 1999. The Spanish state attorney brought charges against 18 leading members of the Scientology organization. The charges include establishment of a criminal association, fraud, burglary, grievous bodily harm, and mistreatment of a Spanish woman in the Scientology prison camp in Copenhagen. The trial begins in the year 2000.